What's going on, guys? William Holtz. It's time for Mic'd Up with William Holtz, presented by Hy-Vee, Lake of the Ozarks, as well as the Lodge at Port Arrowhead and Fat Holly's Pub. And this will be a good one because we are close to election, and this guy's running for state representative. He does that and a lot more. We'll get into that. Luke Hagedorn, what's going on, man?
Hey, thanks, Will. Appreciate bringing me out tonight. It's always good to visit with you, but this time we're going to record it and let the whole world see what some of the things we talk about from time to time.
I was just a little scary, honestly.
Yeah, a little bit. But I'm ready for it.
And you've got to be Chris, man. You're campaigning right now. We'll get right into it. You're running for state representative. Go ahead and just give me your spiel as far as what you're running for. Sure. And why.
I'm running for the 124th district. Rocky Miller has been term limited out. In Missouri, you get 4 2-year terms, and then you're done. He's served the 124th district since 2012, so he's out. There are 5 Republican candidates. It's a 5-way Republican primary. The vote is August 4th, Tuesday, August 4th, and whoever wins that wins the seat. So it's good news and bad news because it means it's over, but it also means it's over, because this experience has been something that, I'd always maybe envisioned myself doing something like this. I have a weird political background that kind of got put on pause for a while.
Right.
I always paid attention and stayed somewhat involved, but I wasn't as involved as I was perhaps in college. But in the back of my mind, I always thought I would do something like this, and here I am, and I finally pulled the trigger in the midst of some crazy times, and it was going to be a crazy summer for me in 2020, no matter what. But to add this into it and some other things going on in my world, I'll look back at 2020 and I'll certainly never forget it.
Yeah, and I wanna talk about that. We're gonna get into that, but I want to kind of go over and try to let people who are out there that know Luke Hagedorn,
sure.
As far as they know so many things about you, as far as, radio, they know restaurant business,
Yep.
they know some things about your family in the area. But I want to know how we got to this point, and I know you grew up at Lake of the Ozarks, so kind of take me back and give me the timeline of Luke.
Sure. My father took a job as a guidance counselor at Camden High School back in the early 70s, like I'm talking 70, 71. Brought my mom here and my oldest sister, Wendy. My next sister, Suzanne, she was Julie at the time. She was born as Julie, but there was 6 Julies in her class, not just her graduating class, her actual classroom. And if you know my sister at all, she wants to stand out a little bit. She didn't like to be a part of the crowd like that, so she became Suzanne, and she's still on my phone as Julie, and my mom still calls her that. But the rest of the world knows her as Julie or Sasa.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, they kind of put roots down here in the early 70s, and I was born in 79. It was called Lake Ozark General Hospital at the time, of course Lake Regional now. Went to Camdenton, always wanted to be a Camden Laker. That was kind of, I looked at, with my dad working in the school, he drug me around every day. I got to ride to work with him every morning, would listen to the radio on the way in and talk, and then I would hang out at the high school before school because, of course, he was getting there way earlier than I needed to be at school. So I'd be around some of the high school kids and things like that, and then I'd go off to my own elementary or whatever I was doing, and then I'd come back after I got out of school, and I'd hang out at the high school again. And again, I'd be around the high school kids, and I maybe got locked in lockers from time to time, or they would bowl with me or things like that. But I always went to the events too, whether it was sporting events or choir concerts or band concerts, and I looked up to those kids, and I wanted to be a part of that. And so when I was a kid, I kind of, being a high school football player or being a bel canto, which is the show choir at Camden, were like my big goals in life. But like I said, I spent my summers at Big Surf or at the Camelot pool, or at sporting events, whether it was, like I said, my sisters both played sports, so I got drug around in the back of a station wagon all across Missouri, Southwest Missouri in particular, watching them play volleyball and softball and basketball and track. And it was a great way to grow up. Our family was really close. We don't always see eye to eye on everything, of course, but we all loved each other so much.
Yeah.
And to be able to looking back on it now, I hated being in the back of that station wagon. It was just awful. I saw the streets of Missouri, or the highways of Missouri, backwards, because it was one of those station wagons where I was sitting backwards the whole time, and I get car sick and all that stuff because it wasn't great. But looking back at it now, it was great. Not everybody gets to spend that much time with their family. Like I said, with my parents both working at school, my mom substitute taught when I was younger. By the time I got into around middle school or junior high, as they called it back then, she actually took a full-time job there. So, I went to prom my junior year, and my parents were the chaperones. And a lot of people think that was weird or crazy, but it was just normal for me.
It was everyday life for you.
Yeah, just being around my folks was great. But yeah, fishing with my dad at the lake and tubing with my friends and things like that. We never actually lived on the lake, but I was always around the lake, and I was a lake kid. And like I said, I spent every summer at Big Surf from the year it opened until I was old enough to start working myself.
Yeah, great place. Shameless plug for our buddy Darren at Big Surf. We love that guy and love that place. But
yeah, every time he posts something on Facebook about that place, it just a flood of memories comes back, because what a great babysitter for my parents. My best friend at the time I grew up on 589, just north of Camden.
Okay.
It's a Pier 31 road now. But my best friend lived at the bottom of the road. I lived at the top of the road, so we had a good system. His mom would come by, pick me up, drop us off at Big Surf, and then my mom would come pick us up at the end of the day. And most of the lifeguards and other staff at Big Surf were all students of my dad and my mom, and so they knew that if I was doing anything that I wasn't supposed to be doing, my dad would know about it before I even got home. And so it kept me in line. And again, a lot of those folks were athletes and high schoolers at the school, so I looked up to them. So I didn't want to let them down. So it was a great babysitter, and what a heck of a deal for my parents. Just every year, all they had to do was buy that season pass at Christmas time, and they had a babysitter all summer long.
Yeah, no doubt. It's crazy, Luke, is the Lake of the Ozarks is so embedded into you, and you're so embedded into Lake of the Ozarks. It's the fabric of who you are and your family. You talked about, I know that your mom and dad were both incredibly involved at the school as educators, and your dad, I understand. I know you guys recently lost your dad. I know, so sorry about, his passing. I know that's a crazy time to be dealing with that. I didn't want to not touch on that because I know how incredibly close you guys were and your sisters and just the community, man. He was. And my point with that was he's a legend through Camdenton. Your family's legendary at Camdenton. And dude, you guys are you're Lake of the Ozarks. I think that's why it's so important that with you running for office, you would understand that. And we'll get more into that in a second. Sure. I wanted to touch on that and let you know how sorry I am that you had to go through that. And we're thinking about you, buddy. And I know you're kicking butt still in spite of it. It's awesome watching you continue to kick butt on the campaign trail and everything else you got going on.
Yeah, Dad was one of the good guys, man. He meant so much to our family, and I keep telling my sisters and my nephews how it's a good thing that this has been so hard for us.
Yeah,
because it shows how much he meant to us and how much we loved him.
Yeah.
If that weren't true, it'd have been easy.
Yeah.
It's part of life. You know it's coming someday, but the outpouring from the community and the folks coming up to me and telling me stories about my dad, and what the city of Camden did for him, because he spent 13 years on the board of aldermen there. After he put like 30 years in the school system serving people. He served our country in the Army. Then he served our school system for so many years. Then he served the city of Camdenton for 13 years. And most importantly, he served as my father and my sister's father, and then my nephews and nieces' grandfather. He was all about service, serving other people, and I think all of us are going to carry that on forever. And his legacy is so important to me, and I strive every day to live up to what the standard he set.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. I know that it's been tough, but it's cool to see you continue to do what you have to do and make him proud. And one of the things, Luke, that I know, and if you guys don't know, it's because you're sleeping under a rock, or maybe you're not involved with Camdenton sports, but you've been a big part of the radio team for a while there. I want you to kind of tell me how that started,
Sure.
How you joined the radio broadcast, and just you've been part of some of the most incredible teams in Laker history. you've had a huge part in delivering that to the fans and people. So tell me that story, man.
Well, Dad actually coached a little bit early. I don't remember it, but he was like a freshman coach or something like that for a while. But then by the time I had any kind of memories, he ran the clock. He was the clock guy. Basketball games, football games, all of it. He was in the booth, and so I would tag along. Like I said, I was tagging along with my dad. Whatever he was doing, I was doing, and I'd go to the football games and I watched those guys, and those guys were my heroes. Jeff Shore, Travis Ezzard. Par Pitts, I could go on and on. Brad Hunter, these
Your
guys.
brother-in-law.
Well, I'm getting there.
Sorry.
I'm getting there
Sorry.
for sure. Yeah, but so I got to see, the first state championship, which was a tie against Marshall, which is crazy because that's my mom's hometown. We tied in '86 against Marshall, and then won outright in '87. And my biggest hero was a guy named Rod Brownell. And there's a picture of me with Rod Bow across my forehead and number 19 over here, and I'm holding his helmet. I'm looking up at him at the state championship game.
Oh, I know the picture.
Because they just won the state championship game, and he'd let me hold his helmet. And I looked up to Rod, and for whatever reason, I wanted to play tailback. Now, I never did run the ball or anything like that. I became a hog, as we all know. But he was the guy for some reason. And I don't know why. I don't know why I gravitated towards him. Jeff Shore was a huge hero of mine. But I grew up with Jeff, and I'd known Jeff forever, so he wasn't like a mythological creature,
like an untouchable hero.
Right, yeah. He was somebody that we played Tecmo Bowl together growing up, and I knew his dad, and his dad would tease me, and my dad would tease him, and Jeff's an incredible guy, and I'm so glad to have gotten to know him over the years and become friends with him. But for whatever reason, Rod was my guy, and just so happens, a couple years later, him and my sister are dating, and not too long after that, they were married, and Anthony was on the way.
He wasn't your guy; he was your sister's guy.
Well, yeah, but it was. I loved him first, right?
Yeah.
We joke about that, and it was kind of the timing was all together, and that might have been part of it. Maybe the influence of my sister, influenced why I looked up to him. But that relationship has been so special because I don't have any brothers. I have two older sisters. But Rod and I have been, around each other since, he was a junior in high school and I was, a third grader. And then, once they got married when I was, like fifth grade or whatever, he's just been around. He's been part of the family, and he's like a brother to me, and I just, it's like I don't even imagine my life without him in it, and it's just cool. And the fact that his four boys, I've gotten a chance to work with at Dog Days over the years, and watch them grow up and do their different things, and they all have things in common, but they're all four different individual dudes, and it's great. And they've all worked for me over the years. They've all done different things, and I kind of tell them all, I was like, it's choose your own adventure with Uncle Luke, whatever you want to do, and they've all taken different paths, and it's been fun.
Dude, but you guys all work so stinking hard.
Yeah, you got to.
I mean, you go to Aquapalooza, and you're going to see somebody in your family sweating like wild. But so why we're talking about Rod Bell, I got to ask this because, man, when I first got to know him, I thought to myself, this has to be an act. This guy cannot be this nice, this charismatic, this genuinely cool all the time. And now that it's been 6 years since I've met the guy, like, there's no slip. There's no, he's never said anything bad about anybody. He's like literally, is he really that cool all the time?
He's on it, man. Again, I see the best of Rod and I see the worst of Rod, of course. So, I mean, and I'm not going to tell you the worst.
Of course you wouldn't, but I wouldn't expect that.
Sure, but he is, man. He's, he was my hero then. He's my hero now. You can tell how much he loves his boys, and he loves my sister.
Oh my, dude! I don't see anybody that's been married that long still in love like those two. Mm-hmm. Like that's my dream, that my sister finds a man that loves her and pursues her and serves her like your sister has with Rod. Man, it's crazy.
It's been incredible, and there's been ups and downs, just like in any relationship over the years. But
they're awesome.
Speaking of which, Suzanne, when I told her I was coming over here, she wanted me to tell you hi, though. So,
dude, she's so fun.
Yeah,
she is so fun. The first memory I have of her was at the Glendale game. We were doing, I think Lake TV had first started doing football games, and we were still working with Sean Kober, and we got our van down there, and we were like parked on the side, and so we had to do a broadcast from the side. And I remember like looking over, and there was this girl in this football jersey. Her hair's all purple. I mean, she's screaming bloody murder at the refs, man. And I was like, I thought it was a student at first. And then I was like, she's a little bit older than a student. Turns out that I already had met her husband because Peak Sport and Spine. I had went in and talked with him there, and then find out it was Harrison's mom and dad, and everything kind of came together. But I could not get over the fact no one's more passionate about her boys and Camdenton than that woman.
She's all in, no matter what it is, and for better or worse, and that's been a interesting part of this campaign. I love having her on my side. But I told her that sometimes it scares me to death because she wants to fight, and we love each other so much that she's gonna put herself out. You see her, she puts herself out there, and that's great, And sometimes I'm like, Suzanne, what are you doing? You calm down. But then I'm like, that's just her. She's never gonna change, and that's why I love her. The three of us. Wendy's the oldest. She's a teacher in Jeff City. She's got a boy and a girl. They go to Helias, which was a tough pill to swallow. But boy, I'm proud of what they've been doing.
Yeah.
He just graduated. He's heading out to Rolla, S&T.
Dude, that's a great school.
Yeah, and he just finished up a great career at Helias. Unfortunately, his baseball career was cut short, of course, this season. They'd made it to the Final Four last year and didn't get to finish it out. And then now JC, my niece, the only girl, there's five boys and one girl, and JC's she's amazing and just a great athlete and just such kind people.
JC's cool, and I know that because she actually worked with me on the Ozarks series.
Yeah, that's true.
Dude, and your sister was there too through that, and she was awesome. She was, I think at that time she was like 11, 12, 13 maybe, and she was super on it, super professional. She was really cool, man, and so I got to work with her a little bit. But, dude, your whole family's just hard workers.
Yeah.
And that can kind of transition us into, I want you to finish the story about the radio and how it got started. No, it's cool, man, because it's all great stuff.
Yeah. I grew up around Laker football my whole time, and even when I graduated and I was in college, I'd come back, and my dad was still, even after Dad retired from the school job at actually being a guidance counselor, he still did the clock for a number of years. I can't remember how long he did, but it was for a number of years. So even when I was in college, I'd come back and sit and watch the game with him and Mike Wackerman, because Wackerman would do the 25-second clock and stuff like that, and we'd sit up there and joke and talk and watch the game. And so I continued to be around it. And there was a few years there where I got away from it. But one time, probably 2 or 3 years before I ever actually did it full time, I had to fill in for Joey Hom on the sidelines. And I went down, and he had to be out of town. I went down, and I didn't know what I was doing. And I had a microphone in my hand. And I've never been afraid to be in a microphone or talk and things like that. I was a speech and theater major in college. I've been in plays and all that stuff. I love the attention. So I was ready for it. So I did that a little bit. And then there was an opportunity with, as we know, Camden actually has 2 radio stations that follow them, and they were kind of shifting who was going to do what. And there was an opening, and actually they talked to Jason Whittle about it. And I reached out to Jason. I said, "Hey, Jason, I know they talked to you about this, but if you're interested, great. If you're not, or maybe you just want to do the home games because he's got a family and everything like that, and I'll do the away games, whatever you want to do." And I can remember the phone call when he called me. He said, "Yeah, I talked to Natalie, and I don't think I want to do it, and not really for me." And I was like, "Yes, I get to do it." And again, you get a chance to put a microphone in front of me and talk about something I love so much and I've been around so much. It was a perfect fit, and we just finished up our 10th year doing that. And like you said, got to see some incredible games over the years, incredible teams. But meeting the guys is one of my favorite parts. I have a segment called Laker Lore that we do in the pregame, and we bring on former Lakers, and they get to come on and tell their story and what they're up to and things like that. And that's really neat.
Hey, believe it or not, I've listened to it. I was sitting in the parking lot waiting. I've listened to it, man.
Sure, and so that's one of my favorite segments. And I enjoy that and getting to know the guys. And now at Dog Days, since our business has expanded so much, between cleaning the pool and doing some security and this and that, I get to hire a lot of former Lakers and a bunch of Ozarks Indians. I got some Iberia kids that work for me and things like that. But getting to know those guys has been pretty cool. And we'll talk a little bit more about my staff and kind of my theories there. But I do hire a lot of athletes, but I hire a lot more than that too.
I know, man. That's wild. It's cool that you've gotten to do that because the passion is clear. Like, if there's one thing I've ever known about you, even before I knew about your involvement with Dog Days and I knew about your family ties down here, was I knew you were very passionate about Camden Laker football. I didn't know why, but I knew that to be the case.
Yep.
And so it's really cool you've gotten to do that on the radio, but that's not really your full-time job,
No.
and either is campaigning and running for
No.
office. You have what I believe, and one of the top lake bar and restaurants at Lake of the Ozarks as far as quality food, just continual experience and staffing, and I mean the pool especially, and is Dog Days, and that's your baby. I
Yeah.
mean, you're the general manager at Dog Days, and you have been a while. So how'd that all come to fruition?
Yeah, like I said, when I was 13, 14, my sister Wendy was working at a busy lake bar, and they needed a dishwasher. Same story goes on to this day at my place. And so she drugged me to work one day, and I started washing dishes at a place called the Spinnaker. The Morris family owned that, and it was just right down our lake road, like I said, down at the bottom of 589. And I went to work there, and the way my dad used to tell the story is I went over and I made my own sandwich one day, and they made me a cook. And I cooked for a couple summers there, and the business changed hands, and I went back to work for the new owners, and they were impressed that I kind of knew the kitchen already. And so the next thing I know, I was running breakfast, and I'd never flipped an egg in my life, but I learned.
Yeah.
And I just kind of found a passion in this business. And I was in DECA, and I was in full-service restaurant management. In DECA was my competition, and I got to go to Denver, and I got third place in the nation. And really Canada was, and Puerto Rico and stuff were involved too, so maybe in the world. I got third place in full-service restaurant management as a high school kid. And I was just kind of doing it on a lark, and they said, which event do you want to do? I was like, well, I work in a restaurant, I'll do this. I never knew that it was actually going to be my career path.
Because let me stop you there, because what you wanted to do as a kid, like when you were 12, 13, 14, growing up, what was Luke, what were you thinking you were going to end up doing professionally?
Man, I had no idea. I hadn't looked much farther than playing high school football and being a Bel Canto, to be honest.
Because that was literally like what you were envisioning at that age. You couldn't wait to be part of that.
That was my next step. And really, as it approached, I started thinking, oh, yeah, there's more to life than that, right?
Right.
And it seems so silly now and everything like that, but it was such a big part of my life being.
Well, it doesn't seem that silly.
Yeah.
I mean, because when you're young, dude, to me now, high school football, like you, I get excited on Thursday nights, man,
Sure.
for Friday's games. Like, and I'm not
Get nervous.
playing. I get so excited for the competition. So it's not silly to me, dude. I totally get it.
So instead, I'd been involved, like I said, with the show choir and with plays with Joe Beth. Joe Beth, it was a different last name back then. But it was her first year at Camdenton, was my freshman year, and she had restarted the theater program. It hadn't been there for a number of years, and so it was a great opportunity for me because I was a freshman. The seniors didn't have any more experience or any more seniority over me other than their actual age in school. So I got to jump in, and the theater and the department was so small then and so new, and we didn't, Jo Beth was fresh out of college, and we were all learning together. So I got to get involved with the theater department right away and just jump in full bore and help build the sets with Jo Beth's dad and learn how to do lights and all these things and makeup, and I just fell in love with it. And again, I'm not afraid of being on stage in front of people. And I just loved it so much, and all of a sudden, theater became my passion, and performing became what I loved to do. And so then, at that point, it's like, well, I'm going to go into the family business of education. And I chose speech and theater education. I wanted to be a debate coach and a theater director and maybe a football coach on the side too. And I wasn't really sure. And I also knew I wanted to work at the lake every summer because I had some mentors growing up. J.D. Hunter is one of them. I saw him. He would do the school thing during the school year and work at the restaurants on the lake in the summertime. And I was like, that's what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And so I went to Missouri State. It was Southwest Missouri State at the time, and actually I went to Lindenwood University my freshman year. I got a great scholarship there, great opportunity there, and that's actually when I first started getting into politics. I wandered into the College Republicans meeting one day and met some folks and started working on campaigns. And
You became president, right?
Well, that was at Missouri State.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, my freshman year at Lindenwood, the club was really small, and it was more, I got in the club, met a couple people, and then started working on campaigns. And then I found out about the internship program at the Capitol. I got invited to be an intern, but Lindenwood really didn't have a good program for that at the time. And I asked around and come to find out that SMS had a great program for it. And I wasn't, my freshman year was tough. First time being away from home, first time I ever had a teacher who couldn't pronounce my last name, right? It was just a weird time for me anyway. And I don't regret much in life. I try not to, but I look back on it. If I could have toughed it out and made my place at Lindenwood, where I'd be now, who knows?
Right.
But I'm glad of where I am now, so I'm glad I transferred. So I transferred to SMS, knowing that I wanted to do the internship program at some point. I stayed as a speech and theater education major. Much bigger school, much bigger department, a lot harder to get roles and plays because the theater department at SMS is fantastic with the tent theater that they do there and all the great facilities. It was a little overwhelming, but I found my place and I got back involved with the college Republicans and became chairman, president, whatever you want to call it. And I got to do that for 3 years, and it was awesome. We built that club up to like 500 members.
Wow.
It was called a super club at the time, and so that gave us a little bit more voting power at the state level, and started getting really involved. And that was, in 2000 was George W. Bush's campaign and the Bush-Gore campaign, and that crazy time with the hanging chads and everything like that. And I got to meet, the future president at a couple events actually out at Roy.
You were working on the campaign, right?
Yep. Working hard and working on some local stuff too. There was a guy named Mark Wright who was running for state rep in Springfield. Worked real hard on his campaign and just started meeting people and getting involved. And like I said, built that club up to where we had over 500 members. Now, it was 500 members on paper. Yeah. And in Springfield, Missouri, it's not that hard to round up some conservative kids, right?
Yeah.
But we had fun. We had fun with that club. We were a little more... we weren't stodgy, stuffed shirts kind of guys. Right. We had fun, our meetings were fun. We joked around, but we cared. We were passionate about politics, and we get out there and hit that campaign trail real hard. And like I said, that led to me being able to go to Jeff City and work for Patrick Nager, who was at the time the assistant minority floor leader. That was back when the Republicans were in the minority in the House and the Senate. And it was a great opportunity. It was to see how the government actually works from the inside. Yeah. It was really neat. It was only one session, but I got to see it for real. And that, I think that kind of set the root on what I'm doing today.
Which is so cool because at that point in time, you said that was back in 2000. Did you think, hey, politics is my full-time, that's what I want to do. I want to pursue. And did you know at that point in time if that's what you wanted to do, what route you wanted to go, or what position you wanted to hold?
I didn't, obviously I worked for a state rep. I was around state reps. I understood the scope of that job, and that was kind of, in state politics, it's kind of the entry-level job. Yeah. I envisioned doing that someday, but I got to a point where I thought I was going to be kind of more the guy behind the guy and be the staffer. I felt like that was a good role for me. Working for my boss, I got to do a lot of things. Catherine Hanaway was the minority floor leader at the time, and so one of the first things I got to do when I got to Jeff City was after Bob Holden's State of the State address, I was on a task force to go through the budget and help construct Catherine's Republican response to the State of the State address. And like I said, I'd been in the State of the State address happens like early in the session, so like my feet were barely wet.
Right.
But it was exciting. It was fun. It was cool, and I got to be there, and I got to go up and work on a campaign up in North Missouri to turn the Senate, the Missouri Senate Republican for the first time. I was up going door to door in Chillicothe, Missouri, and and then got to come back to the Capitol, see the results come in, and celebrate because it was a historic moment in Missouri politics.
That gives you a sense of purpose. That gives you a sense of accomplishment to be part of that.
Yep.
Because not many people have been in one of those sessions or been part of something like that, and that got you ready for this today. But it wasn't what you ended up doing for the last 20 years.
Nope.
So how did you end up being the guy at Dog?
I know. I continued to work in the restaurant business all through college. I worked at Topsider for the Ebling family, and they taught me so much. Kim Ebling and Dick Ebling had run that place for such a long time. When I came in there, I've been very fortunate to work at established, legendary places. Like, I didn't build Topsider. I just kind of ran the show. I worked there for a number of years as a bartender through college, and it allowed me to graduate between scholarships, a little bit of help from my parents, and working my butt off every summer. All these people talk about student debt and everything, how crippling it can be, but I was, thankfully, I got to graduate debt-free. Some of it was good fortune, but a lot of it was hard work.
Mostly was your own accord. Yeah. You were working your butt off.
Yeah, and so it's just kind of, I stuck around there long enough that I finally got the keys to the place, and I was too young. I learned a lot of lessons, but I was too young to be the general manager of a place like that.
That's the best way to learn, man.
Yeah. And I bought a house here back in 2005 when I got my first big boy job, when I graduated college, I actually packed everything I had up in the back of my Blazer, and I drove south. And I was like going on a trip to find myself or something.
You thought you may not come back?
I really thought I might not, but Kim Ebling called me and she said, "Hey, we'd like you to come back and run Topsider." And I was like, "That's like the one phone call that would bring me back home." And so I turned around and came back and, like I said, bought a house. This was back in 2005. All my friends were buying houses. They'd live in them for 2 years and sell them and make $50,000. It was a great time, but 2008 was right around the corner. Little did we know.
Right.
But I'm glad I did what I did because I've stayed in that house ever since. I've slowly, I'm working my way on paying it off. I paid my payments on time every time, plus a little extra and things like that. So I built that equity and built the roots here, and it's given me the stability and the ability to do what I'm doing now. Like I said, I was too young for that job at Topsider. So in 2006, I like to say I swam across the lake to the dog. The Barrett family was so gracious in bringing me over. I'd talked to them actually a couple years earlier, saying, "Hey, I think I want to come work for you guys. I've been at Topsider for a while. I'm kind of tired of it. I want to do something new. Can I come work for you?" And Mark was like, "Yeah, absolutely. We'd love to have you." And I thought about it, and I said, and this is gonna crack you up. I said, "You know what? I think I'm going to do one more. I'm going to do one more year at Topsider where I'm the high man on the totem pole, instead of going over to Dog Days. It was Salty Dog at the time. Going over to Salty Dog and being the low man on the totem pole, because this is my last summer at the lake."
Yeah,
I said that.
You thought you were done.
I thought I was done. I thought I was going to go get my I was just about ready to wrap up my teaching degree. I was going to go off and teach. And I was out of the lake.
You're like, forget the lake.
I'm out.
I'm done with you guys.
I was done. I was finally done. I was leaving, and instead, here I am, 41 years strong. The one summer I didn't spend at the lake, it was 2008. I went back to Missouri State, went to grad school. I was burnt out from my job. I'd been working for the Barretts for a little bit, and after working on the Topsider, then working for the Barretts for a little bit, I was just burnt out. I was ready to go and do something different, and I was kind of chasing a girl. Kind of going to grad school, and I kind of wound up running a bar in downtown Springfield instead. And that was in 2008. That was in 2008 when the housing market crashed. And I thought, and part of my plan was, I'll go off to Springfield, go to grad school, sell my house, use that as a nest egg to go start my career somewhere else. But the housing market crashed. I was paying rent in Springfield and a mortgage here. I ran out of money. Neither the girl nor grad school worked out. So
it was a perfect storm.
Yeah, so I called Mark. I said, "Can I come back home?" He's like, "Yeah." And I said, "I don't want any keys. I don't want any codes. I just want to come back and bartend and wait tables and have no responsibility." I was over responsibility. A couple years later, I was the assistant manager again, and in 2013, I took over as the general manager. And then in 2017, we built the pool, and my world changed. Our staff expanded. Whereas my old systems didn't work anymore, my old methods, none of it worked anymore because we were so much bigger and newer, and it was great. It was an exciting time, but it was exhausting and it was scary. And there were moments where I thought, I can't do this. I'm not built for this.
Yeah, well, tell me this. So in 2013, when you had been back for about 5 years, and you got promoted to GM in 2013, and you'd been back for a while, and you're like, okay, this is great. Like, we've grown. How could you have possibly predicted from 2013 to 17 when the pool, and then now where Dog Days is at? I mean, what's that been like?
It's been incredible. I mean, I'm so proud of what we've been able to accomplish. I mean, and there's been struggles, there's been tough times, there's been things I never. It seems like every year something happens that you just could never expect and don't know how to deal with, and I find myself huddling up with the team and coming up with the best solution we can.
No more than this year.
Yeah.
I mean, for restaurant business, dude, it's been unreal what restaurants have had to go through this pandemic and everything with it. They've got hit the hardest, in my opinion.
Now, we've been able to recover, obviously, with the governor as well as the local authorities, kind of allowing us to do business as usual after a time period. We got right back on track, but it's still been challenging because of dealing with all the new rules and not necessarily rules, but new recommendations, and trying to keep our staff safe, trying to keep our customers safe. All those things have been a challenge.
Supply and demand's been different.
Yep.
I mean, it's just been so different for you guys, especially.
Can't find supply chain stuff. I can't find strawberry rum for some reason. I couldn't.
Dr. Pepper for a while was out.
Sure,
I mean,
all kinds of stuff. But the worst part, Will, was we hire a lot of college kids, right? And our training period is March, April, and May. And for like a brand new server, coming down from Mizzou or something like that, we'll bring them down on a Friday night after they get out of class. They work Friday night, then they work a double on Saturday, and then by Sunday, hopefully they're kind of maybe taking tables. They would go at different speeds and but hopefully by Sunday they're kind of up to speed. And then we sit down on Sunday and we talk. Okay, how'd it go for you? I want you to fill us out. We'll fill you out. And we'll, kind of figure out if you need another training weekend or if you're ready to go or, come back Memorial Day weekend, you're good. All that got wiped out, and it was just like, okay, here we go. Let's learn the kitchen, learn to serve, and whatever. And in the meantime, people are coming from all over the regions, different states. All the areas that are shut down, people are coming here. They're coming from all over the world, and of course,
it's crazy.
We got a little bit of national attention,
which was great.
It sure.
Well, for depending on who you are.
Yeah, right. And it's just been a new challenge every week seemingly, and now we're to the part of the season where the season's winding down. Those kids are wanting to get back to school and get things figured out. Some of them though are going to be doing distance. Some are going to be doing distance learning. They say, "Hey, I want to continue to work here for as long as I can. Love to have you." But the team that we've been able to put together over the years has been incredible. Mark and Brian and their whole family, have brought me in like part of their family, and it's been awesome. I know Rick and Judy, which is Mark and Brian's mom and dad, and they're just amazing people who offer so much wisdom and support, and it makes me understand why Mark and Brian are incredible guys that they are,
right?
Because of their parents. And now there's Cooper, which is Brian's kid, and Eli, which is Mark's kid, and they're running around there. And someday they're going to be my boss if I stick around, and that's going to be weird. But Cooper's such a neat kid, and he just started working with us for the first time this year, and he's just, he's got it, man. You guys
are just also close.
Yeah.
You really are part of that family.
We have so many families there. We had a competition at one point. My family, the Hagedorn Brownell crew, was the biggest one. But there's the Zarings, there's the Galeys, there's the Rileys. Austin Riley played quarterback for Osage. The
Riley family's huge.
Sure, yeah. And it's great because what happens? One kid the oldest comes and works for us, realizes what a great time it is, and then they come back for years to come. And that's one of my favorite parts about my gig is getting to know those families, and you get to know the parents, and you get to know everybody. And when we were smaller, when we were a smaller organization, I really knew all that stuff. I knew intimately who was who and everything like that. And this time of the year, I'm fine. I know everybody's name.
Right.
But there was a portion of June, especially, where I'd be like, and I hired the person. I put their name in the computer, right? And I'm like, Michaela? Yeah.
Okay, so tell me this.
Yeah.
Being the GM of a place like that, like just because of the sheer amount of staff that you guys go through, and of course there's turnover, and so I mean you meet so many people, and you bring on and are entrusted, leading and hiring and employing so many young people. What's it like as far as not only do you have the mixture of the football players that you've called games of and know, but also other districts, and then you just have kids coming from all over.
Yep.
And so being if anybody knows you, you're a fun guy. You're not, unless now if you get on your bad side, you make you mad, I'm sure that's a different story. I mean, you're a fun guy. So how do you go into a situation like that, knowing how serious it is because alcohol's involved, and you're able to make that happen? Because it's a different environment.
Well, you mentioned, we hire the athletes, we hire the band kids, we hire the choir kids because those kids know how to show up on time, wear a uniform, follow rules, take coaching, right? But those kids also have camps, and not necessarily this summer, but they have camps and sporting events and things like that. So you lose them on the schedule. So that's the good and the bad with those kids. So then you also hire some kids who maybe aren't involved in the sports or the music or anything like that. And oftentimes those kids, they don't have the best home lives, and maybe they're not the best student either. But then all of a sudden, our family becomes something they can believe in and be a part of. And I know we've saved some kids over the years, because to give a kid the pride and the dignity that comes with working a job, being a part of a team, and earning a paycheck is invaluable. And I really take that responsibility seriously. I know I'm not perfect, and I'm sure, I'm sure I don't always lead and be the best example for those kids, but I try to be, and I try to encourage them and not discourage them, and bring them along. And I know, like I said, I know there are some kids who our family, our restaurant family becomes their family, becomes the thing that they believe in, are part of. A guy like Austin Riley, the star quarterback, that dude was going to be fine anywhere he went, right?
Yeah.
He was going to thrive and do well anywhere. But some of those kids, like I said, who maybe weren't that,
right?
Those are the ones and again, when we were smaller, when we were a smaller organization, I could really take the time and the care. Right. So now it's more, I maybe pick a couple guys out or a couple here and there, and I try to do my best for them.
And it's so much like some people feel like, oh, in bar business, it's just simple. It's go and show up to work and not. It's like, well, there's just so many more variables that go into running a restaurant because you're dealing with personalities, you're dealing with food, you're dealing with people's lives. So, and you guys just really do a good job at Dog Days. And I know that you're the GM. And I also know the ownership puts you in a great position and trust you to succeed. And you guys have some great staffing. One thing I want to ask you. What do you guys do to your burger there? How do you do that?
Well, we get a good product in, first of all. I'm like, one of my main duties is I'm the #1 burger taster for us, right?
Dude, you guys baking cheeseburger doesn't even make sense.
Well, we do. We got great vendors we've developed a relationship with over the year, and every having a seasonal restaurant like the Dog presents its own challenges. You have to start. You're almost starting over again every year,
every season, right?
But the bright side of that is it gives you the advantage to reevaluate what you're doing and try new things and kind of check it out. And so in the wintertime, oftentimes we're going to our vendors. We're saying, hey, what can we get? And we're trying to my bosses, the Barretts come from a farming background, so they understand commodities and pricing and things like that. So we're always trying to push for a better product at a cheaper price, so we can give a better value to our customers and ultimately make a profit and be able to employ as many people as we do. We have I think it's like 170 people on staff right now, or maybe right now, but at the peak. And they go from 14-year-old busboys all the way up to some ladies who I won't say their age who work in the t-shirt shop, right? And all walks of life. Vast majority of them are right there in the high school, college age group. But then there's some of us, especially the management teams, maybe a little bit older. Some of the cooks are in all over the map there and things like that. But it's just really caring about what you do and putting the passion in and the work. It's work. And it sometimes you come and see me at my job and I'm floating around and having fun and whatever. You don't see the hours I put in before that and the hours I put in after that and the crises I've gone through.
For sure.
Or the other day, especially in today's environment, I had a dishwasher come up to me and say, "Hey, I don't feel good." And I'm like, "Get out of here." It turned out he was fine, whatever, but...
And you almost have to do that now? And it's like, man, it's Saturday. I can't afford for a dishwasher to leave me hanging, but you can't not, because then you're liable or luckily, somebody could get hurt.
Yeah, luckily this was Tuesday, but that also meant he was the only dishwasher on, so guess who got to wash dishes that day?
And that's one thing I know, and that's one of the reasons, Luke, that I respect you so much is... Because every time I've ever seen you at Dog Days, it could be dealing with an issue on the floor. It could be behind the bar flinging drinks. But you're carrying kegs. You're carrying trash. It doesn't matter what it is. You will do it there. You set the tone for your staff, which I think is very admirable.
I do less of the carrying heavy stuff. I used to be the heavy stuff guy. But as I got older, I don't. I'm too valuable to the company to be down.
To be carrying kegs over your head down the stairs?
To be down in the back, because one winter I was carrying some sound equipment and it threw my back out. And this was before I was a GM. I was just an assistant manager at the time. But I told Mark O'Brien, I said, listen, I know I've always been the guy because I'm a big guy and I can carry heavy stuff. I was like, I got nephews who can carry it. I got other guys. Because I was out. Luckily it was a winter show that we were doing. It was actually Low Cash Cowboys were playing for us one winter. And I carried the gear and it threw me out. And I was like, if this happened to me in July... especially in my bartending days, it would cost me a fortune. I was like, I can't do that. And, this was back before I had decent insurance and stuff like that. So I just laid on the couch and just waited it out, and I was fine after a week. But I don't carry no. But again, I will. You will see me hauling trash and washing dishes and doing all that stuff. I try not to, and I try to hire enough people that I don't have to do that kind of thing. But it's just part of the gig, man. And like I said, I started as a dishwasher. It's one of my favorite things to do when I hire a new kid. especially a new dishwasher. And I'm like, "Is this your first job?" And I was like, "Yeah." I was like, "You know what my first job was?" And they're like, "What?" I was like, "Dishwasher." They're like, "What?" I was like, and it gives them, gives them hope, and
Awesome.
lets them know you can,
So another thing that I think that you have a huge insight to, and you've gotten to see over the years because you've worked it, and now you're kind of leading the charge at a big level in the restaurant industry. Man, when you look at hard jobs today, and I'm going to take out of the equation before I go any further, like the people that have never worked in a restaurant and go in are like, yeah, tipping 10% is great tip. They just don't get it. They're not restaurant people, so take them out of the equation. But when people that have worked in a restaurant, man, I can typically tell within 3 to 5 minutes of being around you as my server or bartender, that person is going to be really successful at anything they want to do. If you're good at the service industry, and that's not always the case, but more times than not, I mean, you're going to be good at a lot of other things.
Yeah, I mean, the skills you get in the service industry can be applied to any industry. There's been so many success stories with us of kids coming through, graduating college. Hopefully you get them for 2 or 3 years and they go off and they're super successful. I've got doctors and lawyers and all these things who've worked for me over the years, and I really think some of the skills that they learned with us serve them well. Dealing with people, dealing with different kind of people, dealing in difficult situations, high pressure situations, high volume situations, all that stuff. I think it builds a little character, but I think more importantly, it reveals a lot of character. It really shows who you are. All my years of bartending, every day just talking to people, selling. I talk about bartending. It was such a passion for mine for a long time. It was something I was pretty good at. I wasn't good when I started, but I got good. And I always say I was one of the best, and I don't get to do it as much anymore. I don't know if you put me back there, I could handle a pool bar shift or anything like that, like the guys and gals that work for me now. But it's funny. It would take this back to politics a little bit. One of my opponents had been going around saying, "Well, one of my opponents is just a bartender," and at first it kind of made me mad. But then I started thinking about it. I was like, that the service industry is the heart and soul of the lake. So I mean, if you're going to represent the lake in Jeff City, being just a bartender is kind of a great thing. And the job of being a bartender specifically is one of the few jobs where you are part of the entire process of selling.
Yeah.
You're a salesperson. You manufacture the product. You actually build the product. You put it together. You have to
distribute.
You have to distribute it. You have to account for it. You have to get the money and make it up. So all the different parts of like a small business or a large business that has that, obviously in large businesses there's accounting sections and there's the manufacturing and there's this and that. A bartender does all of it.
That's right.
From the beginning to the end. Service, the servers not so much. But that's a whole other dealing with the tables and dealing with people and dealing with like I said. Most of the time, most folks are coming out to have a good time and enjoy themselves and do it. But you got to get it right. You got to be quick on your feet. You got to be able to talk to people and have the right personality.
Yeah.
And interpersonal relationships apply across the board. In any industry you're in, dealing with people and making them happy and providing them a service is going to serve you well anywhere you go. I'm proud to be a part of this industry because, like I said, the lake is so built around it. To me, it's like all I really know. I get to travel around and see other places a little bit in the wintertime. Hopefully this winter I won't get to go anywhere but Jeff City, but that's okay. Yeah. But when I get out and about and I see it, some cities do it well, some cities don't do it so well, and they don't take it as seriously. But here at the lake, we're professionals. We are all about having a good time, providing a great service and in a fun, safe environment. And again, there are failures there all the time, but you learn and you get better, and you get immediate feedback, right? As a server, if you did a good job. Some jobs you may go in, write a report, and send it off to your boss, and you may not find out till 2 days later whether or not you please them. In the service industry, even before you get the tip, even before they pay the bill, if you made a person happy. And so it's that immediate feedback that you get constantly, over and over and over again, and you have to deal with rejection. You have to deal with some failures. And all these lessons you can learn working in the restaurant business, people who haven't done it before don't understand. I'm not looking down on people who don't. I had a friend back in the day who said, "I think everybody to be able to go eat at a restaurant, you need to have worked in a restaurant for 1 year and you get a special card and this and that.
I don't think that's a bad idea. Not realistic.
It's not realistic, of course. But the sentiment, I understand the sentiment, because once you've done it, you kind of understand where it's coming from, what it's all about. And it's just, it's such a, until you've done it, you can't fully understand what it's all about and all the ins and outs. Because when you come in and you just see the small part of it, you see that 1 hour interaction with that server. But what you don't realize, that server is having the same 1 hour interaction with maybe 5 or 6 other tables simultaneously. And you may have, as a server, you may have to be one personality with this table because it's a family who wants to, get in, get out, whatever. And over here you got some businessmen doing a business meeting that they want to be left alone, whatever. Over here you have a bunch of rowdy guys that are trying to have fun and give you a hard time and whatever. And personality to personality, and a great server is able to do all of those things,
right,
and be able to relate to all kinds of different people, because you don't get to pick your tables, you don't get to pick your customers, especially if you have a hostess or there are certain ways you can pick your customers, and you develop regulars and things like that. But generally, especially in a place like ours, you walk in the door, you have no idea what your customer base is going to be that day. Right. And you don't know what you're going to be dealing with. And you just have to roll with the punches and get better, and just evolve and learn. And like I said, it's just like anything, sometimes there are some failures and you don't make somebody completely happy. And that's something I struggled with early in my management career, early in the pool. When we built the pool, the first year of the pool in 2017, when we got so busy and our ticket times weren't great and our service wasn't the best, and we were understaffed because we didn't understand what we were fully getting into that year, and it would crush me. It would crush me when I let a customer down or I let a table down and they left unhappy, because I want everybody to come in and leave happy. And I have to constantly remind myself and remind my staff that when you have those failures, when you have those moments when you didn't do the job right, or they didn't perceive that you did the job right, sometimes it's on either side, and it would tear me up. It would really bother me. In today's day and age, you have that feedback from social media, from review sites and things like that, and you get a bad review, and it can take it out of you. But the way I've gotten over that is I remind myself, okay, yeah, maybe I had one table that left unhappy, but I had hundreds who had a great time, who were happy, who loved the meal. But you don't remember all those. You remember, I forgot that guy's ranch.
Oh, right? Yeah, I can tell you the amount of times later laying in bed, you have that thought. Well, really, I wanted to get to everybody, watching or listening to get an idea of Luke Hagedorn. Mm-hmm. Up to this point in time, know about the ties to the lake, the rich history with the schools as far as your family being educators, and with the football program, and then now part of the radio broadcast, and even all the coaches and staff that you're still so close with, and now with dog days, and employing a lot of your football players and a lot of community members, and I wanted people to know who was running for state representative. And that brings me to my next question. Now that we know you, why are you running for state representative?
Well, I was the last person to file for this seat, right? I actually wind up filing with about an hour and a half left in the filing deadline. It opened up in February, I think, and whatever, and it ended in end of March. And some of the candidates had declared a year earlier in August that they were running, so they had their infrastructure put together and everything. But it was the end of March. The restaurant was closed. I didn't know. Didn't know, it was for the first time in my life. I didn't know what was going to be the next step and what was going to happen. And I looked. Most of our staff was out of work, and I looked at all these people, and I was getting asked questions about what are we going to do? What's going to be the next step? When are we going to get to open again? And I've always been the answer. Not always, but since I've been the manager, I'm the answer guy. I can answer the questions. I'm always able to give and I know, what's in the, is this gluten free? I know the answer. What beers do we have? I know the answer. Where's the toilet paper? I know the answer. Yeah. How do you fix this printer? I know the answer. And for the first time in a long, long time, I didn't have answers. And I just looked around at the people who I work with every day, who I love and care for, and and we were all scared. We didn't know what the next step was. And I thought, and I talked to a good friend of mine who had kind of been an advisor to me back in my college days, and we kept in touch over the years. And I'd called him about something completely unrelated, and just the topic of politics came up, and he said, "Did you ever think about running?" I said, "Yeah, of course I've always thought about running." About 2 hours later, he had who the opponents were, what I had to do to file, all lined up. He says, "You have 3 days to get this information together. You got to get a financial statement together. You have to do this, this, and this. And then you got to pay $50 to file and do it." He said, "If 2 weeks later, if you decide you don't want to do it, you can drop out, and all you're out is $50. I'm like, okay. So then I started calling people I cared about and people I trusted, and trying to get them to talk me out of it, really, and trying to find a reason not to do it. And everybody supported me. Everybody said, "You should do it. I will support you. I'll do everything I can." I talked to Mark and Brian because I knew, the schedule actually kind of works out pretty good with us, because the session goes January through May, and our business doesn't really start to pick up until May. So that part will work out pretty good. I'll have to, have a little bit of management team in place while I'm in session for those first couple months and those training periods, but I'll be able to come back for weekends. But ultimately, I talked to my mom and dad, and I asked, and my mom, and we haven't talked too much about my mom, but God bless that woman. She's everything for me right now. But she's very nervous about stuff, and she's not as adventurous as I maybe am. And so, like, I'd be like, "Hey, Mom, I want to go down to Springfield for the weekend and visit some friends." She's like, "Well, why would you want to do that? That just sounds crazy." And my dad, so wise, and just, he could say 3 words that would just change my perspective on things. And I after talking to all my other friends, it was my parents that I got them on the phone, called the same boyhood number that I've always called. I try to call them all the time anyway. And I called them up, and I was like, "Hey, so this is kind of what I'm thinking about." And I was bracing myself for my mom to be like, "That's just crazy. Why would you?" But instead, she was immediately supportive. Immediately told me that was a great idea, and that whatever she could do to help. And then I was like, "All right, here comes Dad. He's gonna drop the hammer on this one and tell me all the reasons why this is dumb." And he's like, "I think it's incredible. I'm so proud of you. You're gonna be great at it." And then he bought me a hat.
That's awesome.
My first campaign swag, he bought me the hat. That is actually the last gift he ever bought me. But that's when I knew I could do it, and that's when I knew I should do it. And he got me the purple hat, and there's too many Osage and Iberia and Eldon folks in the district for me to make purple a big part of my campaign by any means. If the district had maybe been drawn different, my signs might have been purple or something like that. But I got to represent the entire district. So, but this hat's
be your favorite hat of all time.
Yeah, it's gonna be special. I don't wear it too much because I don't want to ruin it or anything like that. But it means a lot to me, and that's why I ran. Will, I love this place so much. It's been so incredible to me, my family, and my friends, and I care about the people. I care about this place, and I want to do what's right. I want to get up there in Jeff City, because the way the legislature works is based on population, and the lake is huge, and it's got in certain times of the year the population here is crazy,
right?
But the full-time population here that gets counted by the census, which determines state representative districts, is smaller than it should be, but compared to what this place is and the economic engine that this place is, we're underrepresented in Jeff City. There's not, and the districts have been drawn differently over the years. Sometimes, you get, one district that kind of covers the whole lake, and right now it's kind of divided up in about 3 different districts that are kind of representing the lake. The 124th district, which I'm running, covers most of the lake. It goes right through the heart of the lake, the Ozarks. But I just want to do what's right for the lake and represent us well, and watch out for our best interests, and make sure that the people in the service industry, and when I say service industry, I don't just mean the restaurant business. Between dock workers and people who work on boats and just all the different things, the people that make this place go, the hotels, retail, the folks that really, all the little shops up and down the strip filled with people who serve people every day. I just didn't feel like there was a voice for us. There's not a lot of bartenders who
Right.
who run for state rep, or restaurant managers who run for state rep. And that's such an integral part of what we do down here. Of course, there's other industry down here that's so important. Our hospital's great. Our schools are great. There are other interests, and I care about all of them. But what I've done in the last couple decades of my career have been in the service industry, and I think that service that I learned from my dad and my mom, serving the community. And then the service in the service industry, just serving people, on a day-to-day basis. I think it's gonna serve me well when I get up to Jeff City, and because I know how to take care of people, and I know how to listen to people, and I know how to cater to make everyone feel special, because they are special. It's genuine. It's not, there are some servers who do the fake server smile and whatever and blah, blah, but I've never been like that, man. I've enjoyed the conversations I have over the bar. Now it's more out on the floor, and I get to talk to people, and sometimes it's not the most positive interactions because somebody's unhappy. Oftentimes when they ask to speak to a manager, it's maybe already past the point of no return sometimes, right?
Well, let me ask you this, Luke.
Yeah.
So let's say we're just now a few days away from the election. August 4th, Tuesday, is election day. So everyone watching and listening, make sure you get out and vote. You're right.
Sorry to interrupt.
No, you're good.
But vote.
Right.
I'm looking in the camera on this one. Regardless, of course I want you to vote for me. Please vote for me. But no matter what, vote, and vote every time.
Yeah.
It's so important. It's one of it's a right that's granted to us by our Constitution.
But it's a responsibility.
You beat me to it. Thank you very much.
It's a responsibility as well, and I hope that everybody will. If you're voting, vote for Luke. But if you're voting, that's the great thing, and we want you to be voting. Luke, what would you say the biggest thing you want to accomplish as the state representative of the 124th district if you get elected?
Well, like I said, advocacy for the lake is going to be my main thing. Advocacy for the lake and constituent services. When I was an intern in Jeff City, one of my main jobs was answering letters and emails from constituents of the district that my boss worked for, and just being that voice. And sometimes, state agencies can be hard to navigate, and sometimes you just need a little help and a little guidance and things like that. And I got to learn when I was doing that internship, I learned a lot about how government works and how sometimes government doesn't work. Yeah. And like I said, my main thing, I don't necessarily have an agenda. I mean, I have things I believe in, of course, and things I want to look at. Less business regulation. I've worked in the bar business for a long time, and all the liquor laws are all over the map and things like that. And if you've never been in the restaurant business before, may not know how to navigate those. And I can only imagine in other businesses it's the same way.
Right.
So, making it easier to do business. But, with my education background and my family's education background, I care about the schools and I care about the things there. The Department of Education, so oftentimes a new person gets appointed to that position of the head of that, and they feel like they need to do something to justify their existence, and so they just do things to do things. I'm gonna look out for that, but mainly there's gonna be a lot of tough choices because Missouri has a balanced budget. Missouri can only spend the money that they have; they can't spend any more, unlike our federal government and other states. And with the COVID-19, our economy has taken a huge blow. Now, if you just took the Lake of the Ozarks and specifically the restaurant business and the lake bar business, you wouldn't know that.
Right.
But the state as a whole has taken a big blow, and there's going to be a lot of tough choices that are going to have to be made. And I know some of the choices that we make aren't going to make everybody happy because services will be cut, things will be cut. There's no other choice. And I just want to be there and be able to make sure that the lake isn't taken for granted, make sure that the people here are appreciated the way they should be, and for the whole state. You're elected to be a state representative for your district, and obviously that's important, but the laws you vote on affect the entire state. Yeah. And I love Missouri. It's my home, I'm a huge Chiefs and Royals fan, and I'm just ready to go to work and just be there and be a voice and not only be a voice but be an ear.
Yeah.
Because sometimes that's all, somebody just, government can be scary. Government can be hard, and you feel like the man's getting you down. And sometimes you just need to vent and say, hey, this is crap. And maybe the best answer I have is like, yeah, this is crap. But we'll try to fix it, and we'll do our best. And sometimes that'll be the answer. And I know, getting into this, that it's, I'm going to make, there'll be decisions I make that won't make everybody happy. That's part of the gig. I don't look forward to that. I don't relish that, but I'm prepared for that because I know in my heart that I'm going to do what's right. I want to make my dad proud. I want to make my mom proud. One of the things that always kept me in line when I do my radio or even being on Facebook or anything like that is I know my mom's always listening and always watching, so I know I can't step over the line or say anything that'll make her mad because she'll tell me about it.
Yeah.
And I'll keep that in mind. And now I know Dad's watching. So.
Yeah, man, it's awesome, and I know you're making him very proud, continuing to make him proud. Well, Luke, man, I'm glad that we got to do this. Good luck again, guys. Tuesday, make sure you get out and vote. Luke Hagedorn, state rep for the 124th District of Missouri. Appreciate you, man. Thanks for coming on. Good luck this Tuesday.
Thanks so much, man. I appreciate the opportunity, man. And just, it's been fun watching you grow in this business and do what you're doing. And I think you're doing some great things, man. And it's just always fun. Your positive attitude is infectious. And I can tell how much you love this place, too, because you're a true Lake guy as well.
Thanks, brother, man. Means a lot coming from you. Luke Hagedorn, brother. That is my man. That has been the Mic'd Up with William Holtz podcast presented by Hy-Vee Lake of the Ozarks. Also brought to you by our friends at the Lodgeport Arrowhead and Fat Polly's Pub. It's going to be an action-packed weekend right here at Lake of the Ozarks. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time.